Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hounds for Life podcast.
As always, I'm Maya.
And I'm Shanna.
And this is episode 7. And it's our Christmas special episode. And we have really treats for you, so stay tuned. So what has happened the last few weeks at Hounds for Life?
Well, we got Foxy and Candy.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 new fosters. Foxy is a black female greyhound. She is 6, and Candy is a younger female. She is a fawn, and she is 2 years old.
Yes, and they are just so bouncy and happy.
Yeah, they're both really, really sweet. Different personalities, but really awesome.
Yes. And then we had visitors because Foxy and Candy has been delivered by a lovely woman from Wellington, MJ, and she actually runs a dog walking business there and a cat sanctuary. And she purchased a animal control truck was fitted, with crates and everything, just a perfect truck. And she was donating her time to bring the dogs from Night Drive to us on the South Island. And she actually raised funds for her trip because she needs to go on the ferry, everything else. So the community put together to make it able for Foxy and Candy to come to us. That was really awesome.
Yeah.
And it was lovely to meet with her. And she was actually helping us all day.
Yeah, in the rain. It was like a really bad day.
So if you see that, MJ, hey, thank you. That was lovely.
We also have a volunteer from Christchurch. Her name's Zaya. And she is helping out with the animals on Te Paranui, as well as the dogs. So that's really awesome to have someone who's going to be here for a while looking after the animals. Yeah.
I think she's going to stay pretty much throughout the summer, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think she's going off on a trip at some point, but she wants to return, which is really cool.
Yeah. So, hey Saya, if you see that. Hi, thank you. And then Perry. We have featured Perry in episode... Is the last one?
6?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Has a home. He's on a foster to adopt basis with a local owner here in Picton. And we are looking forward to have more pictures from her, from him and her, and see how it goes. And we wish you, cross fingers, all the best that works all out for you.
We also had a visit from Bentley, who used to be fostered by us. He has gone to Night Rave to get some training done, so it was really cool having a visit from him. He's a really awesome dude. Yeah,
and it's lovely to see how they have changed once they have been with the owner.
Yeah, once they've been in a home environment.
Yeah, so they come back and they're kind of a little bit a different dog to what we left off with them. Yeah. And then we had horrific weather. That is like the last 3 weeks was pouring rain and storm, and there was, I don't know if you read the news, there was a flood in the south of the South Island or middle of the South Island.
The west coast was pretty bad.
The west coast was horrific, and we have a west coast feature this time.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
it kind of relates.
Yeah, it kind of relates.
It was really nice when we were there though. We got lucky.
Yeah, we got lucky. We had lovely weather. You'll see that at the end of the show where we took all this lovely footage from the west coast when it was nice weather. Now there was roadblocks and I don't know, horrible times, and all our volunteers from Te Paranui didn't make it, so they couldn't come because of the roadblocks, and they came with 3 days delay. So these things happen, right? What can you do?
It's supposed to be summer, but I reckon we'll have a late summer, and she'll come through later
She'll be alright, eh?
Yeah, she'll be right.
Okay, so without further ado, we're going into our show.
Enjoy, everyone.
Enjoy. See you later.
Little darling, it's been a long, long racing season. Little darling, it's time to rest and find a home. Here comes the hounds, didn't you know? Here comes the hounds, and I say it's for life. Hounds for life. Hounds for life.
So our first segment for this episode is an owner segment with Janice and her Greyhound Tricky. If you're watching and you're from New Zealand, you may know of Tricky. He's very famous in the Greyhound Collective pages. But I don't want to give too much away. It was a really, really awesome trip, and we're so grateful and thankful to be able to have had the opportunity to meet you both. I hope you all really enjoy it.
Yes.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hounds for Life podcast. Today we're here with Janice Sadler and one of her greyhounds, Tricky. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No worries. So tell us, how did you meet Tricky? How old was he when you met him? Tell us.
Okay, so Tricky was 6 weeks old when I met him. My ex-partner bought him as a pup to be a race dog. And yes, he was very little and cute when I first met him, and he was running around the paddock with his sister actually, and we seen his mum, and he looks very much like his mum, Tricky Shelley, which is how he got the name Tricky. It was really good to be involved in that side of it and see. Be able to go and see him in training and watch him at the breaking in stage when he was broken in at the track, and going and watching him at Addington trial there, and then see him race as a race dog as well at mostly Addington, and then his trainer talked to us that he wasn't as competitive as he was, and we decided it was best to retire him, and he was always going to come home for life on the couch.
Beautiful. So how old was he when this happened, the retirement?
He was 3, nearly 4. So and he's 9 now, so he's been with me a few years. So my daily routine for a greyhound person starts probably a bit later than what some people's does. I get up around about 8 o'clock in the morning, and my 22-year-old son Connor, he helps too, so we'll let him out, and either me or Connor will feed the dogs, and then I'll go off to work, and they just kind of laze around the house all day with Connor until I'm ready to when I get home from work, which is usually between 3 and 4 o'clock. And depending on the West Coast weather, we'll venture out for a walk. Tricky had an accident at Christmas time, which sometimes means that I will take him out first for a shorter walk before taking out other dogs. I have Prada as well, who's my dog, and I'll usually have a foster with me as well. I've been fostering probably about 20 months now. And I think I've fostered about 9 or 10 greyhounds.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, love every single one of them.
You want to keep them all?
No, because I know if I kept every single one of them, I kept one, I wouldn't be able to foster. And 3 sort of the limit of what I can fit in my car to take them down to the beach and whatnot. So it would mean that I couldn't foster, and I absolutely love being able to see them transition into from race dogs into pets.
That's amazing. So tell us now what happened to Tricky.
Okay, so it was a beautiful evening on the 26th of December 2018, and we were going for a walk down the beach. There was me, my son, my 2 greyhounds and a foster hound, and we were walking on lead on the beach. Prada was off lead, just trotting around, and Tricky can be a bit naughty at going looking for rabbits in the dune, so I always just give him a quick hand slip where my son will be down a couple hundred metres, and then I'll call him up and put him back on the lead before he can decide he smells rabbits and go looking for them. This particular day, obviously it went a little bit wrong, and when he was about 10 metres from me, he appeared to dip and had a horrific fall. And initially you think, is it just the greyhound sound of death and nothing much wrong, but as soon as I got closer you could see visually that it wasn't good. So my son took I had 3% battery on my phone, so very quick call to the vet and a very quick message out onto Facebook. Help please, try and get Tricky off the beach. We were right on the waterline, because often I'll be as close to the water as possible to keep those rabbit smells away. I think what must have happened with the rough, he's the king of roaching, was the rough West Coast beaches with the rips, was perhaps there was a tiny dip where he dipped. I think he dislocated his elbow first and then fell very badly on his leg and broke that compound fracture of his leg as well. So vet can't really fault the Hokitika vets. They, Linda, who was on duty, she came out to the beach with a stretcher. My son had run back to the car park to meet them, so they knew where to find us because we were quite a wee way up the beach. Another friend came down and helped us, and we managed to put him on a stretcher. I had got my jersey underneath him earlier to pull him out of the waterline, because otherwise the odd wave was coming up. And he was actually really good at allowing me to do that, and then just lay there shivering in shock. So I just lay on top of him until help arrived, and then we carried him out to the vets. Being Christmas Eve was the worst time possible because there was only one vet on duty. All she could do was her best to make him comfortable, so me and my friend basically had to pay vet nurse, holding him and positioning him while he was under general anaesthetic to try and make him as comfortable as possible, reducing his shoulder back into joint, which didn't want to stay there. So it was a matter of making him as comfortable as possible until we could have something done. We were hoping to be able to save the leg. But after 5 days and an obviously open fracture, I was having to shoo flies off to the chance of infection was high, even though he had been cleaned up really well, as much as possibly could be done at the time. There was still sand all within the wound. So after 5 days, and the fact that the shoulder joint would not stay in position, because it turned out that the muscle had come over top of the shoulder joint, hence why it wouldn't stay there. The best option for Tricky to make him as comfortable as possible, when he had already been in pain for 5 days, was amputation.
That's a phenomenal story. So tell us, how did he recover? Like, what was the recovery like after those 5 days and that difficult decision?
He had a bit of pain initially on the first night, so it was decided that he would go to the emergency vet overnight just to keep him on his IV pain meds, and they would try and see how he went with reducing those overnight to see if I would be able to take him home the next day. They took him off the drip to get him from the vet at Shirley Vets to the who I'd taken him to from Hokitika to get a Greyhound experienced vet's opinion, and so he went to the after hours. Obviously he had to be unhooked to be transported, and he was so excited to see the car he jumped in himself, and then we had to kind of rebalance him as he got in there, and then took him to the toilet when we got out the other vets, and he was able to hop around and toilet himself within hours of his operation. I think it was a relief to have the painful leg not there, because it was kind of strapped in that as much as possible, but every single movement was causing such pain. I think it was actually he was able to move a lot better without it than he was in the 5 days before the operation.
A very, very brave dude.
Yeah, he was very brave. He's been back to the vets a couple of times once for a dental and a couple of times just to say hi, and they're always happy, and he always just bounces in there happy to see everyone tail wagging, which I think is pretty incredible. After you'd think he'd dread the place, but no, he's, yeah.
So this must have been an extremely expensive procedure. So how did you manage to cover these costs?
I was incredibly lucky, I feel, and this is the bit that makes me emotional. I'm not normally an emotional person, but the Greyhound community and the animal loving community as well. My friend who came with me that night started to give a little page. It was shared with the Greyhound community, and they really came to the party, and basically that's how it was paid for. So I am forever extremely grateful for that, because I still would have done the best I could have for Connor, but it would have been a huge financial burden to myself. Would have been a credit card type job. So I am forever grateful to everyone who contributed and helped out. And it wasn't just donations for his operation. I had two different. I had a physio offer support and a massage therapist, but I'd already accepted the physio. I had offers of accommodation when I was coming over for physio. I had amazing support. I had a caterpillar donated, so to make him more comfortable in his recovery. Just so much generosity and love that it was very, very humbling, and Connor and I will be forever grateful.
It's a beautiful community. I personally stalked
Yes.
and kept tabs on Tricky,
Yeah.
because I was so worried.
Yeah.
And also very curious to how he would heal, which he's done so well.
He's done great. I even, on Hokitika Beach, about 2 months after his accident, had someone who was from Dunedin who recognised Tricky and said, I've just got to come up and say hello and get a photo taken from his story being shared on social media. Yeah, so I've had that happen a couple of times now. They don't know me from Bar of Soap, but they recognise Tricky. Yeah, so that's quite wonderful.
So it's changed your life, really.
Yeah. It's good to see there's good people still in this world.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the bunny saga. Now that he is a tripod and obviously a little bit less quick, is he still on lead?
Actually, he's suddenly become a little bit more behaved. He will still sometimes try his luck, but he's off lead a lot more now, because it is a lot easier for him to keep his momentum up when he's moving, rather than the stop-start of a constant walk. It's a lot harder on him. There are times when I'm near the road that I will have him on a lead, but he will have a harness so that he hasn't got that pressure on his neck with him hopping, and quite a longish lead that I use on him as well. And so he is off lead a lot more than he used to be, and he seems to listen a little bit better now. I don't know if it's our bond got stronger, he's getting older and he just listens a bit more. I don't know, but I can take him down the beach off lead, and he's pretty good at weight. He knows a weight, and so
It's like there's something in my mouth. Okay, so do you want to show us your harness?
Sure. So the harness is the Rough Wear from the Rough Wear range. So, Tricky, come here. Come up. You're not getting on the couch. Come here.
Please, the couch.
Come here. So it's actually easier with 3 legs, because he hasn't got, I don't have to. So that just goes pretty easy. And it was really good when he was recuperating, because the hardest bit, as you see, for him, once he's up, he's fine, is actually the getting up and the getting down. So that's pretty easy, and if he does get himself cast somewhere and stuck, he's got a handle that can help him.
And is this what you used when he was first going to the toilet? You used this handle?
Well, took a few weeks for me to have this. So yes, one of the first times that that's been his biggest problem is he can't cock a leg quite the same as he used to. The first time he did a little bit of a nosedive, and I just happened to be beside him and kind of grabbed him. I did have another harness at home that's not as good as this one, that had a handle on it, that I would just use to help sort of steady him and just sort of my body a little bit, but keeping in mind that I had to sometimes
watch out for the weeds.
watch out for where the jet stream was going. But yeah.
And he's okay with going to the toilet now?
Yeah, he just sort of does a half pie crouch, and he's just adjusted his the way he has to do it. So that's probably getting up and going to the toilet are probably the hardest, but he's learned to adapt.
Yeah.
This is his brace that was strongly recommended by the physio. It gives this leg support, because what often happens is the carpal tunnel, the ligaments in there will strain with the extra weight of holding him and when he's moving around. So this basically gives him support to counteract that. So this was a custom made from America, and
ironic with the sheepskin.
yes, so it's got sheepskin in there. Sometimes I think I should have, living in such a wet climate, got a more waterproof version, but it does the trick. So it just from the bottom, it's Velcro everywhere. That does up there.
He's very patient.
Yeah, and then that across there, and then it's got 4 straps that just come around like that, and so it's right down near here. And
he sits.
Yes, he sits. He can sit on command.
Naturally. Did you have to warm him up to it?
Yeah, I did a little bit with him. Basically, I only teach them sit because I find it easier to go from a sit to a down personally. And then down, and then I'll work on a weight. So it's not natural for all greyhounds, but my 2 can. So so they'll both sit for a treat if I ask them to, and a lot of my fosters will be taught to sit, then down, then wait too. It's quite good to have a good wait. And that just sits basically right on that pad, that top stopper, not the stopper pad, but that pad just there under that, and that stops any ligament damage happening to his wrist in there.
With that, did they say that there would be any future complications?
Basically, he had a lot of neck pain afterwards, just from the extra stress, and basically his whole biodynamics of his body will change. So his whole muscle conformation and the muscles he uses, all that will change. So he gets a bit of massage that I was taught by the physios, just to keep him the best that he can be.
You're a brilliant owner, honestly.
He's a brilliant dog.
He is very beautiful.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy. Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to the very important Greyhound segment, and we're going to go with our 10 questions. Are you ready?
Awesome, yep.
Okay, so number 1, what is Tricky's favourite treat?
His favourite treat is the marshmallows from Premier Petwear. Petwear.
Wow.
In Oxford, yep. Loves them.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, they're not real marshmallows, they're just doggy marshmallows.
Oh,
yeah.
Professional. So how long was your longest walk with Tricky?
My longest walk with Tricky was probably over 2 hours.
Wow.
Obviously not recently, but yeah. We used to go for quite big walks.
On the beach?
Some on the beach, but that particular one was just around my neighbourhood, round old forestry tracks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is Tricky allowed on your bed?
Yes, Tricky's
Awesome.
on my bed every night, yes.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the bed?
Yeah, he has been. He's known as Goldilocks. He finds all the softest places in any house he goes into. So, yeah.
So what does he do when he's happy?
When he's happy, his happiest time is probably just in the evening when he's on the couch with his head on my lap. That's probably his happy time. But other time is when you pick up the lead and he's got a little happy dance that he does before dinner and before walks, where he'll kind of prance around a little bit and the tail doing a slow wag, and he's prancing around.
Beautiful. So does he have pajamas, and if so, does he sleep in them?
Yes, he definitely has pajamas. It gets quite coolish, and he's still most of the time in the evenings wearing his pajamas.
So tell us how his pajamas have adapted to his tripod.
Okay, so he's got 2 pair of pajamas, and one's got a rather large neck. So both sorts of pajamas that I've got for him are actually the tie ones, so they just come over and tie. The one with the high neck is fine, but the other ones are better just sort of used over the top, because I find otherwise with the lower neck it can come over and get trapped around his stump there.
Aww.
So yeah, it's best just using on really cold days on top of the other ones.
So what is the smartest thing Tricky has ever done?
Tricky's pretty smart. He can open the door when he's outside.
Still?
Oh yeah, with 3 legs doesn't make a difference. Yeah, he just puts his paw up and opens the door and then pushes it with his nose and comes back on in. So yeah, that's probably...
That is very good. I'm very glad mine don't do that. Does he snore?
Not usually, but I actually heard him a little bit last night, so he's not normally a snorer though. You hear the cheeks puffing normally more so than a snore.
He's very cute, hey? Number 9, what is his favourite toy?
Probably the flamingos. Well, it depends. The flamingos are his favourite toy when he's trying to show that it's either food time or walk time, or he wants outside. That's the time he'll start flinging toys around. And the pink flamingos are normally the favourite for that. But he has his caterpillars that he just likes using just to lounge around and use as a pillow.
So the final question, number 10. I know you have 2 greyhounds and you foster, but would you ever consider an additional greyhound?
Oh, you can never say never, can you? Yeah, I have had 3 in the past.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's all your car fits.
Yeah.
To get a new car.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, because I want to keep fostering, so just trying to figure out getting them all in the car. But one day, maybe. I also don't own my own house, so that limits how many I can get if I want to keep fostering.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting us come and interview you today and telling us your story and Tricky's story. It's been phenomenal. Thank you so much, and we hope everyone enjoys it as much as we have. Awesome.
Thank you.
See
Bye.
yous.
Say bye, Tricky.
He's like, what?
So that was really interesting to see how Tricky came along with this horrible accident, and then all the good things that happened after that. The community got together, and he looked such a happy chap.
Yeah, he was.
He just didn't
so
care.
cool.
He was just absolutely cool. Great. So I'm glad that he had the opportunity to get fixed and become alright. We have now coming up kind of a Christmas special. We have rehomed Blaze, which is now Missy. We mentioned that in the last episode with Claire and her son and a
Murray.
Murray.
A Murray.
A Murray.
A miniature pincer.
Pincher, yeah. And it was really great. She has all set up for Christmas already.
She
and
loves Christmas.
She loves Christmas, and all the dogs got their Christmas thingies, and you will see, you will enjoy it. So, and that was actually the original footage, how we actually delivered Missy to her new home, the first steps there, and something we have never showed before, I think.
No, yeah.
In our how-to segment, I'm gonna take you through how to make an awesome Christmas present for yourself and your Greyhound. If you haven't done braiding with paracords yet, you have to try it. It's so much fun. It's really easy to achieve, and I hope the tutorial gives you step-by-step instructions so you won't struggle to do it, and you have a joyful Christmas gift for the Christmas season for yourself and your Greyhound. Yay! For this bracelet, a franchise bracelet for you and your Greyhound, you need a standard paracord, a ring, stainless steel, some thread, which is hem thread or a smaller paracord, scissors, a chopstick, and a lighter and a darning needle with a blunt edge. Cut off 5 meters of your paracord and find the middle of the paracord and thread it through the stainless steel ring. Then you measure the length of the neck of your Greyhound, which is roughly about 38 centimeters, and measure the same including the ring at your project, and then hold the other end of the paracord firmly where you have measured it, pinch it to the ring and thread it through the ring. So you have both ends secured, and this is the actual size of the collar or the friendship bracelet that you do for your Greyhound. So if you're unsure, go ahead and measure it again and then pinch the open end close to the ring so you are not accidentally changing the size. Now the actual collar length is inside the two cords, and make sure they are not twisted. And you start with the first knot, which is a Solomon knot. You take the left side over both middle strings and the right side under the both middle string and thread it through the loop so you can actually tie it and fasten it. Tie and fasten it really close to the ring. This is the only really tricky part that you have. When just make sure that the beginning is right, and then measure again if you want to. If you're unsure the size, you can slip it over the neck of your Greyhound. Make sure it's not too tight, but also not too loose. It should be really snug and just slide over the head of your greyhound. Now you thread the other way around. So now the left thread goes under and the right thread goes over, and you loop the left thread through the right. Now you have the first Solomon knot, and as you can see, and that is an important piece of information, the knot is on the left side. You see there, that is the knot and that is on the left side. Now you have to apply just one rule when you braid this one. You always have to take the string that comes out of the knot on top of the center pieces. Always on top, and then obviously the other one on below, and then thread it through. So you have a loop and you can tie it, and that's a knot. And now you can see the knot move to the other side. So now it's on the right side. Now what we have learned is we put the string that comes out of the loop on top and the other one on the bottom. And then you tie it and you fasten it. So it won't take you long, and you get this the hang of it, and you go into this beautiful swing of knotting, which is really meditative. And in this manner you knot away, always making sure you are not twisting. You would twist the knot if you are not putting the string that comes out of the knot on top, but rather on the bottom. Then you will see the pattern doesn't form, and there's a slight twist in it. So you do have to undo this one and redo it and do it right way. The whole collar, especially with the embroidery, would not work if that would be the other way around. Now you come to the end of your project, and there's just probably 2 or 3 more knots possible. Now here you can actually tighten everything up and make it really nice and tight by pushing the knots to the beginning. First of all, you check if you have not made a mistake. So this is all looking good. The knots are all in the right place, and then you push it towards the beginning and see how much more space you have created to put a lot of more knots in. And that's what you do. You knot till the end. Always making sure the knots are even tensioned. Not too tight, not too loose. And when it comes to the very end, it's a little bit more tricky, but not a big challenge. Just squeeze one more knot in there. And oops, that was the wrong one. So you undo it, do the right one, and cut off once it's really tightly knotted. Cut off the end very close with a sharp scissors. And you don't need to worry that it comes undone, because we're gonna take the lighter to it and singe the end, which means the plastic that this paracord consists of is melting, and through melting it becomes it's sticky and glues into the collar. We do the same on the other side. And with the metal end of your lighter or your metal scissors, don't use any plastic, you can also press the melted end of the paracord in, which makes a very smooth and almost invisible end. And here you have it. The first part of your franchise bracelet for you and your Greyhound is finished, as it is. You can use it like this, or stay tuned for the embroidery project. Now we want to do the bracelet for the human. What you need is the same paracord. You cut roughly 2.5 meters of it, and start by singeing the ends in this case and flatten them. The reason for that is that later on we need the ends to thread through a rather small loops, and it helps tremendously if the ends of your paracord are already prepared, so they do not fray and they are nice and flat, so they can fit through the smallest loops. As always, use some metal to melt down and press down the melted plastic, otherwise other plastic would melt into it. So here we do the same. We find the middle of the paracord, wrap it around your wrist, and all the way around you want a full wrap, and then mark the other end of the paracord where your wrist ends, and pinch there. This is your marker, and then fold it over. Now you have a centerpiece, that is the actual length of your bracelet, and you have the outer strings which we use for knotting. And we do the same Solomon knot as for the collar for the Greyhound. You just pinch and hold it firmly and start with the right one on top of the center pieces, and the left one goes below the center pieces and loops through. Always make sure you're not losing your pinch. It's just the first knot that you need to be very careful with. This makes the project a success. So if it doesn't happen the first time, don't be disencouraged. Just do it again and again until you are happy with the first knot. Here you can see that it forms two loops, which we want to expose a little bit more because we need these loops for our fastener later on. Now we start to our Solomon knotting. We start where the knot is on the left hand side, and we put the left string over the center pieces and the right string under. Pull it tight to create our first Solomon knot. And same as with the dog collar, the knot is always wandering from left to right and from right to left. So you can see here we have already created a knot on the right side. Make sure you are not tightening too fast your loops, so you rather pull them out a little bit. Measure it again, and as you can see there's a little gap, which is totally fine. You need a bit of a gap for your closure. You don't want your bracelet to go all the way from one end of the wrist to the other. Now we are taking the right string over the center pieces because that's where the knot is, and the knot wanders to the left, so we take the left string over and the right string under and knot. Here you go. That's your Solomon knot. But now you know very well how to knot it, and that would be much fun and not much of a challenge. Just make sure you're not twisting the knot. So you always check where the last knot is and use the string that comes out there to go on top of your center pieces. Once you have done a row of knots, you will see it goes quite quickly, and you come to the end where it becomes a little bit tight. You need to be aware that you need the little loop on the bottom of your bracelet still, so you don't want to completely knot over it. Just leave a little loop there. You can tighten up your bracelet a little bit without closing the upper loops, and yep, there fits just one more knot. And then we start to secure the bracelet after we checked that we got every knot in place and not one knot is twisted. And then you have your strings, and here comes the chopstick into play. With the chopstick you widen the hole on the bottom, and then you take the string that comes on top out of the bracelet through the bottom of the hole, so the opposite way, and then you do exactly the same one with the one that comes out of your knot, which has to go from the top down through the same hole. So you open up the hole a little bit more with the chopstick and thread it through, and it might get stuck there, because it's quite tight, so you can use your chopstick and squeeze it through. This chopstick is an awesome tool. I use it all the time when I do craft things. And then you pull the string through the loop and tighten it, and you have a nice secure knot on the bottom of your bracelet. The next step is to create the closure. To create the closure, we need to thread through the both loose strings through the loops we have created at the very beginning. So you take the right string and loop it through the right loop, and the left string to loop it through the left loop. As well, here the chopstick comes in handy. Make a hole, thread it through. That should go quite easy. And then do the same on the other side, just making sure that your strings are not twisting. They should be parallel to each other. Once you have put your string through the loop, you can already see how the fastening goes. This is how you close it and open it, so you can slip it over your hand and tighten it up at your wrist. The only thing we now need to do is to tighten the upper loops a little bit more, so they are actually holding the strings in place, and then make an end knot so the strings are not slipping out when you use your bracelet. Now the next step is that you find out the proper length. So you pinch with your thumb where the largest part of your hand is, and then start to make the end knot by doing 2 loops, and put the right string over the top of the center and the left string under the center. And now you want to go back into the same loop where the string comes from. So with the lower one, you go up on top and through the same loop he came from, which was the left side. And with the right string, who is now facing the left, you go under and through the right loop. This looks a little bit chaotic, but it all makes sense once you tighten up the knot. It becomes a nice and decorative and safe knot to secure your fastener. Both strings need to have the same length, so here you make a little bit of an adjustment if one is too long by pulling in the slack of this cord. And once you get to know your knot a little bit better, you also know where to find the right end to actually fasten the knot and taking out any excess string. Before you cut the ends, just make sure you're happy with the size of your bracelet and the way it slips over your hand and the way it tightens up at your wrist. So when everything has the right dimensions, you can go and cut the excess paracord the same way we did with the collar. So you cut it really tight towards the knot with the sharp scissors, and take your lighter and cinch the ends and press the melted ends quickly, as long as they are still hot, in with the metal part of your lighter. This will create a nice and smooth end and also is almost invisible. And the last thing you need to do is to adjust the loops to make them tighter, so the string, the fastener, doesn't slip out. What you do is you pull your whole bracelet towards the small loops until they become really tight, and you can see you can fasten it and it stays actually there. And that's exactly what you want. So now it's nice and snug, and you can repeat that anytime your bracelet seems to get a little bit loose. And then you just tuck the ends under if you don't want them to stick out. And you have your bracelet finished. Yay! So you and your Greyhound have a beautiful matching bracelet, or aka collar. And the ring of the collar can accommodate the name tag and the council tag of your Greyhound. And the good thing is, if you have something like that, you don't need to have this thick martingale collar on your Greyhound all the time. When you go at home, then you can take the martingale off and have this lovely bracelet. Now the next part is, if you want to go further and make some decorative embroidery, to do this lovely hearts on the bracelet and on the collar. What you need for that is you need some hemp string that I have used, or some really small paracord. if you can source them, and thread it through a darning needle or a tapestry needle which has a very blunt end. I used for the bracelets around about 1.5 meters of the hemp. To make the heart, you're never going through the paracord, only through the holes that has been created through knotting. And you start at one end and do the top part of your heart by going through the top loops. A heart has two half round shapes on the top, so that's exactly what we are creating first, the two half round shapes there. And then you hold just the end of your string so you can weave it in later. And once the top part of the heart is done, you find the opposite, on the opposite side, the next loop, which is in the center of the two round half rounds, and thread through there from back to front, and then go into the beginning of the first half round of your heart and thread it through, and then go to the other end of your half round of, I don't know how do you call this, top of a heart, this half round shape, come through there and go back to the pointed edge end of your heart, and that's your first heart done. Ta-ra, beautiful. Now you want to stick with the next heart close, so you go in the next possible hole next to the pointed edge of your heart and start to do your two half round shapes for the beginning of the next heart there. Same way you did it at the other side. Nothing's changing. You just make sure that you always start at the first half round and always end at the peak or the pointed edge, a pointed part of the heart. That's all you need to remember. And then you are not using too much string, and also the opposite side of your bracelet looks kind of organized and tidy and not so wild. And soon you will see you have finished your second heart, and then you know how this pattern comes to pass and how everything forms. Go ahead and continue in this established pattern until you come to the end of your bracelet. At the end of your bracelet, you just make sure that the hearts are all in the correct order, and this is how the back side looks. You have maybe thread in the beginning of the thread already while you were embroidering, or do it now. You definitely have to secure now the end of your embroidery thread. You can also find at the beginning and make a knot there, a simple knot, and secure it in this way. If you have a smaller project like this bracelet, if you are embroidering the collar of the dog, that's not an option, so you would have to secure both ends with some knots at the beginning and at the end of the project. Now this is hem, so you just cut it off with the scissors. No need to singe it. You can't even do it because it's a natural product. It won't melt, and but it will be fine. It won't fray too much. So cut that off there, and here you have your bracelet. That is for the human, and then you have the matching piece for your dog. Yay! And for the lovely dog design, you can have your name tag there and also choose other designs as you please. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more crafty how-to videos.
Awesome, that's so cool. I'm going to do that for myself and my Grace. Now we have our featured foster of the week, who is Candy, Cinnamon Candy. So yeah, if you guys do like her and you're interested in adopting her or fostering her, then please let us know. Enjoy.
And she's so beautiful.
She really is. Super fluffy. She's
So
got such a cool personality. She's still like quite a, I don't want to say pup, but she's only 2. She's quite young.
Unraised.
Yeah.
And just absolutely gorgeous pet. Absolutely gorgeous.
Quick learner too.
Yes, she is. Intelligent, eh? Did she not open... Yeah, she did actually. She figured out how to open our gates.
Oh.
Yeah, that was
I
her.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, today I'm here with Candy, Cinnamon Candy, who is a 2-year-old fawn girl. She was unraced and she is from Canterbury. She is available for adoption and she is a super affectionate girl. She's also super fluffy, which is really cute. I've noticed that the ones that come from lower down in the country actually have more fur. She is really quiet in terms of barking, but she is still super active as a 2-year-old. She loves to play and cuddle and she's comfortable walking up the stairs. She loves coming inside. She's really sweet. Good girl. Are you a good girl? She also really loves to chatter, which is very cute. So as I said, she's super outgoing. She's really social and good with people. She can be homed with a small dog or a large dog, but she cannot be homed with cats. She's not too good with the cats. But that's okay. If you don't have cats, then Candy can be your girl. If you guys are interested in adopting Candy, please get in touch with us. Good girl, yeah.
Little darling, it's been a long, long racing season. Little darling, it's time to rest and find a home. Here comes the hounds, didn't you know? Here comes the hounds, and I say it's for life. Hounds for life. Hounds for life.
So the last doggy walk of the year will be at the West Coast. We didn't take our greyhounds, we were delivering, who was that?
Sprite.
Sprite. So on this trip then, where we delivered Sprite to the West Coast and also took the footage of Janice and Tricky, we were doing a little bit of touristy things that you have to do, and actually we haven't been there before. It was called the Pancake Rocks.
Yeah.
Really amazing, and you will see all the footage of the Nikau. The Nikau is an endemic, the only endemic palm tree in New Zealand. She grows so slow. I think she is. It takes us 70 years to be able to reproduce.
Whoa.
For the first time. So you can imagine how old the trees are there. And it's very specific on the West Coast that we have the Nikaus. I don't think we have them anywhere else. They love just the weather there. They are very very picky.
It's such a random, it's quite a rough, it's really beautiful. It's quite a rough place. The roads are like super windy, you'll see, but...
And most beautiful, like so scenic, it blows your mind. Anyhow, you'll see it, so we take it there and we wish you
A Merry Christmas.
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and lots of joy with your greyhounds or with your other dogs or with your people.
Your family, yeah.
Your family, your whānau, we say in New Zealand, the extended family where all the animals account for as well. And we see you in the new year. By the end of January, we take a little break for the holidays and feature and come back to you with episode 8 then.
Awesome.
And until then, we say...
See ya!
See you, Merry Christmas. Bye. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Jingle bells.
Oh. Just Merry Christmas. I hate Christmas. Okay. Last thing.
Last thing.
So we should take a picture.